The day Emeka's clippers touched Mrs. Adi's scalp was the day she stopped recognizing herself in mirrors, and she would spend the rest of her life wondering if that was a blessing or a curse. In the heart of Enugu, where the sun painted rust-colored shadows on zinc roofs and the air carried the scent of suya smoke and ambition, there lived a barber whose hands seemed touched by something beyond mortal skill. Emeka's shop was the crown jewel of Ogui Road, a sleek establishment with polished marble floors, floor-to-ceiling mirrors framed in gold, and leather chairs that whispered luxury when you sat in them. Air conditioning hummed constantly, a rare blessing in a neighborhood where most shops relied on ceiling fans. Neon lights spelled out Emeka's Palace in electric blue, visible from 3 streets away. But the real magic wasn't in the decor. It was in what happened inside those walls. Every morning before dawn broke, a line would form outside Emeka's door. Men in agbada robes, women in corporate blazers, university students with dreams in their eyes and desperation in their pockets, all waiting. Some brought coolers of soft drinks. Others brought small radios to pass the time. They waited because Emeka's touch transformed more than hair. It transformed lives. When Chief Okonkwo walked out of that shop, his receding hairline somehow looked distinguished, powerful, like a man who commanded boardrooms and respect. When Ada, the secretary who had been passed over for promotion 3 times, emerged with her new low cut, she looked like someone you couldn't ignore: sharp angles, fierce eyes, beauty carved from confidence itself. Within 2 weeks, she became an assistant manager. The transformation wasn't subtle. It was seismic. Low cuts had always existed in Enugu, but never like this. Never with this fever, this obsession. Suddenly, the style wasn't just practical, it was powerful. It was the look of success, of modernity, of people who knew something others didn't. Celebrities on television started sporting similar cuts. Fashion magazines featured models with cropped hair and blazing confidence. But everyone knew the real magic happened in one place only: Emeka's Palace. Women who had spent years growing their hair, nurturing each strand with shea butter and prayers, began appearing at Emeka's door with scissors in hand, ready to sacrifice their crowning glory. "Cut it all off," they would say, eyes bright with inexplicable hunger. "I want what everyone else has." The trend swept through Enugu like a fever. Long braids, carefully woven over hours, were abandoned. Wigs sat forgotten in closets. The low cut became more than fashion, it became obsession, religion, a ticket to a better reflection. Emeka's waiting area filled every day by 5 a.m. His appointment book stretched 3 months ahead. Other barbers in neighboring shops watched their customers vanish like smoke, drawn by an invisible force to Emeka's chair. Money flowed. Crisp naira notes stacked in his safe, more than his father had earned in a lifetime of farming. He bought a generator, expanded his shop, hired 2 assistants just to manage the crowd, though he never let them touch the clippers. Only Emeka used those. But Emeka never smiled when he counted his wealth. His hands would tremble slightly as he touched the clippers, the tool that had changed everything, the secret that sat heavy in his chest like a stone. It had happened 6 months earlier, on a Saturday afternoon when the world still made sense. Emeka had been hiking alone in the forest beyond the village, seeking solitude after another failed business week. His previous barbershop had collapsed. Customers complained his cuts were uneven, ordinary, forgettable. He had been ready to abandon his dreams entirely when he stumbled upon the lake. The water was impossibly still, mirror-smooth, reflecting clouds that seemed to hang lower here than anywhere else. And there, perched on a smooth black stone at the water's edge, was a woman more beautiful than anything he had ever imagined. Her skin shimmered with an otherworldly luminescence, bronze and silver, and something that had no name in human language. Her hair flowed past her waist, each strand catching light like spun moonbeams. She hummed as she worked, combing her hair with slow, meditative strokes, completely unaware of the human eyes watching from behind a palm tree. Beside her sat a small ornate box, carved from what looked like coral and pearl fused together. The lid was open, revealing tools that seemed to pulse with their own inner light, a comb that sparkled like captured starlight, an eye pencil that shifted colors, and there, nestled among other mysterious implements, a clipper unlike any Emeka had ever seen. It looked ordinary at first glance, just a simple hair clipper. But as sunlight touched it, Emeka saw something else, ancient symbols etched along its surface, so small they seemed to breathe and move. The mermaid, for that was clearly what she was, rose gracefully and slipped back into the water without a splash, as if the lake had simply opened to receive her. Emeka didn't think. Thinking would have meant remembering the old stories, the warnings his grandmother had whispered about taking things from the spirit world. Thinking would have meant walking away. Instead, he ran. Grabbed the clipper. Fled through the forest with his heart hammering and the tool burning cold against his palm. That night, he used it on his first customer, a teenager who wanted something fresh for his girlfriend. The boy walked out looking like he could model for magazines. Word spread before sunrise. Emeka had told himself he would return the clipper. Eventually. After just a few more customers. After he made enough money to secure his future. The lies we tell ourselves always sound so reasonable in our own minds. He never used it on himself. Some instinct, perhaps the last whisper of wisdom, kept him from that. His own hair remained untouched, ordinary, a reminder of who he had been before theft changed everything. It started small. Too small to notice at first. Mrs. Adiz mentioned to her husband that her hair seemed to have stopped growing. "I used to need a touch-up every 2 weeks," she said, examining her reflection with furrowed brows. "It's been a month. Not a single centimeter." Her husband, who had been getting weekly cuts from Emeka, shrugged. "Maybe it's a blessing. Less money on haircuts." But it wasn't just Mrs. Adiz. In salons across Enugu, hairdressers began whispering. Their regular clients who had switched to Emeka's low cuts weren't coming back. Not because they were satisfied, they simply had no new growth to manage. At first, people joked about it. "Emeka's cuts last forever," someone laughed in the market. "Best value in town." Then the falling began. It started with a few strands on pillows. Nothing alarming. But within days, it became handfuls. Women woke to find their pillowcases covered in hair, their scalps visible through thinning patches. Men watched their carefully maintained cuts disappear entirely, not through growth but through loss. Panic moves faster than truth. Within 2 weeks, dozens of people stood bald. Not the clean, intentional baldness of a fresh shave, this was patchy, uneven, grotesque baldness that spoke of sickness and curse. Not a single strand remained on many heads, not even eyebrows or lashes. The skin was smooth, impossibly smooth, as if hair had never existed at all. The streets transformed overnight. Caps appeared everywhere, baseball caps, traditional caps, headscarves tied desperately over naked scalps. Women who had been proud of their beauty now hurried through markets with their heads covered, eyes downcast with shame. Men who had strutted with confidence now walked with shoulders hunched, avoiding mirrors and conversations. Children pointed and stared until their parents slapped their hands down, hissing warnings. But everyone was thinking the same thing. What happened? Who did this? All roads led back to one name. One shop. One man. They came at midnight, a mob of 30 people, maybe more, faces twisted with rage and desperation. They surrounded Emeka's palace, the neon lights casting eerie blue shadows on their hairless heads, their voices rising in a chant that sounded like ancient judgment. Emeka! Emeka! Give us back our hair! He tried to hide, to pretend he wasn't there, but they broke down the glass doors. Hands grabbed him, pulled him into the street where torches cast dancing shadows that looked like demons. Chief Okonkwo, now bald and diminished, pressed close to Emeka's face. What did you do to us? I didn't, I swear, I just cut hair. A woman shoved forward, tears streaming down her smooth, hairless face. My daughter won't leave the house. She's 16 and she looks like she has a disease. Fix this. The beating began, not organized, just the chaos of hurt people striking out at the source of their pain. Fists, feet, the flat of someone's machete. Emeka tasted blood, felt his ribs crack, and through the haze of agony, he knew he had to speak. The mermaid, he screamed. I stole it from a mermaid. The mob froze. In the sudden silence, Emeka's confession spilled out like poison from a wound. The lake, the beautiful creature, the box of mystical tools, the clipper that had seemed like a gift from the universe but was actually a theft that damned them all. I never used it on myself, he sobbed, blood dripping from his split lip. I swear, I never used it on myself. But I used it on you. On all of you. And now, where is it? Chief Okonkwo's voice was cold as gravestones. Where is this clipper? Emeka retrieved it with shaking hands from behind his barber chair, the tool that had built his fortune and destroyed his neighbors. It looked so ordinary under the torchlight. So impossibly ordinary. Take us to the lake, someone commanded. Now. They walked through the night, a procession of the cursed following their Judas. Emeka's feet left bloody prints on the forest path, but no one showed mercy. They arrived at the lake as dawn broke, painting the water in shades of amber and rose. The lake was empty. Perfectly, impossibly empty. No mermaid. No ripples. No sign that anything magical had ever existed in this place. The black stone where she had sat was just a rock, weathered, ordinary, covered in moss. She's gone, Emeka whispered. She's gone and she's not coming back. Someone cursed. Someone else wept. A woman fell to her knees and began to pray in a language that sounded older than memory. They made Emeka use the clipper on himself, a punishment that felt both too much and not enough. The mystical tool touched his scalp for the first time, and within days, his hair fell away like everyone else's. He joined the ranks of the damned, bald and marked and known. The police took him away in handcuffs, though no one could decide what crime to charge him with. Theft. Assault. Witchcraft. In the end, they called it fraud and gave him 6 months. Months passed. The remaining villagers, those who had never visited Emeka's palace, watched their cursed neighbors with a mixture of pity and relief. Some tried everything: herbal remedies from traditional healers, expensive treatments from dermatologists in Lagos, prayers from 3 different denominations. Nothing worked. The curse, if that's what it was, held firm. A new economy emerged from the ashes of vanity. Cap sellers became wealthy overnight. Wig makers couldn't keep up with demand. Women wanted something, anything, to cover their naked scalps. The marketplace that had once buzzed with talk of Emeka's incredible skills now hummed with the commerce of concealment. The barbershops stood empty, their chairs covered in dust. No one trusted them anymore. Those who still had hair bought personal clippers and cut each other's hair at home, in private, with hands that trembled every time the blade touched scalp. Some people left Enugu entirely, seeking fresh starts in villages where no one knew the story of their missing hair. Others stayed, forming a quiet community of the marked, people who understood without words what it meant to have beauty stolen by magic and greed. Mrs. Adiz eventually stopped covering her head. She walked through the market bald and defiant, her chin raised, her eyes daring anyone to comment. A few others followed her lead. If they were marked, they decided, they would be marked proudly. But late at night, in the privacy of their homes, they still touched their smooth scalps and wondered. Wondered if the mermaid watched them somehow. Wondered if hair would ever grow again. Wondered what other magic walked among them, invisible and patient, waiting for the next fool to reach for power they didn't understand. Emeka was released after 6 months, his sentence reduced for good behavior. He returned to Enugu thinner, quieter, still bald. Emeka's palace had been looted and abandoned, the neon sign broken, weeds growing through cracks in the marble floor. He found work as a laborer, carrying cement bags at construction sites, his once golden hands now calloused and ordinary. Sometimes people recognized him. Most just looked away. The mysterious clipper remains locked in an evidence room in the police station, gathering dust, its ancient symbols fading in the darkness. No one dares touch it. No one even speaks of it anymore. In the market, business continues. Caps sell. Wigs are adjusted. Life moves forward because life always does, even when marked by the inexplicable. But sometimes, on very quiet nights, people in Enugu swear they can hear humming coming from the direction of the forest, a melody that sounds like beauty and warning woven together, floating over the trees where a lake holds secrets that humans were never meant to steal. And in that sound, in that haunting echo across the darkness, lies a truth that every cursed soul in Enugu knows by heart. Some gifts are not meant to be taken. And some prices can never be unpaid.